Indie games. They're pretty neat. And for the last, wait, hang on, how long has it been since the last one of these? So for the last 2 months, I've been hard at work finding new indie games to share with you all. Look, I would have had this video out sooner, but I've been a little too busy playing Marvel Rivals to focus on this video, and totally not doing anything else. So today, we're gonna explore some of the most stylish, challenging, and weirdest indie games I've been able to find these last 2 months. Do you like weird games? Do you like games where you have no idea what's going on? Well, then ENA Dream BBQ might be the game for you. Now, quick recap for anyone that doesn't know what ENA is. ENA is a web series created by Joel G that debuted May 26, 2020 with Auction Day, an episode centered around ENA and her friend Mooney attending an auction. Now, I won't get into the specifics of what happens in this episode because, well, even if I did, it wouldn't make sense. So instead, I'll leave a link down in the description to Joel G's YouTube channel, so you can watch the episode for yourself. Now, while this initial debut for ENA was weird all in itself, the following episodes, Extinction Party and Temptation the Stairway, only got weirder, with more and more weird imagery and events following ENA seemingly wherever she went. But ENA herself is a girl with a split personality, with her 2 personalities being happy and sad, and each having their own respective voices.
I felt woundness in that sentence, so...
Nice weather! What conspiracies are we cooking on the menu today?
However, it is worth noting that the version of ENA we follow in the web series isn't the same one in Dream BBQ, or at least isn't speculated to be the same ENA. I won't go into specifics because the theories for the ENA series as a whole are bizarre to say the least, but it's speculated by many that ENA is a species living in this bizarre world, with the ENA from the web series and the ENA from Dream BBQ being 2 completely different entities. But the reason these 2 versions of ENA are seen as different beings is because of the different personalities that Dream BBQ ENA displays, with Dream BBQ's ENA displaying 2 completely different personalities known as Salesperson and Meanie.
Let me ask you, what if I offer you something that could change your life forever?
Are you kidding? I hate this stupid job!
Creating an ENA that is wholly unique to Dream BBQ. But moving on to the actual game now, ENA Dream BBQ is a game developed by Joel G and the ENA team, and is what I can only describe as a surreal, sometimes uncomfortable, and bizarre experience. But in Dream BBQ, you play as ENA on a hunt for the boss. However, her hunt gets stunted by a thick layer of smoke that is caused by a... So instead, ENA has to hunt down a bathroom in order to relieve the smoke and push forward. But in terms of gameplay, Dream BBQ sees you traveling across different bizarre areas and helping out random strangers in order to get closer to reaching the... with some of the areas you encounter being a casino, purge party, and yes, a bathroom. But aside from the gameplay, the art style, or I guess lack of an art style, helps contribute to Dream BBQ's overall charm. Because while some characters are animated similarly to the CD Zelda cutscenes, not all characters are, with certain characters like the Rat Hoarder being animated in 3D, creating a world that feels closer to the Amazing World of Gumball more than anything else. But overall, ENA Dream BBQ is a fantastic and weird game, and is one that I found myself oddly coming back to even after I beat it the first time. So if you're into weird games and the ENA Web Series, then Dream BBQ is definitely worth checking out. Explore and uncover the secrets that lay within a lush planet in Ascent DX. Developed by Johan Pates and Valve, Ascent DX is a bite-sized 64x64 pixel Metroidvania game where you take control of an astronaut stranded on a desolate planet. Now, in classic Metroidvania fashion, you collect and unlock new abilities over the course of the game, all while exploring a world in search of a way to escape. However, unlike most, or pretty much all Metroidvanias, where the player unlocks abilities after defeating bosses, Ascent DX is much more exploration focused, with the game having you unlock abilities purely through exploration, with a whopping 0 bosses and enemies that only feel more like environmental hazards instead of actual enemies. But I will note though that because Ascent DX is an exploration-based game, keeping a mental map of this game's world is very important, because even though the game has a map you can find, I didn't really find it to be all that helpful in most cases, and actually got lost for about 15 minutes after trying to understand it. But honestly, the way the the map is designed isn't really a victim of the game itself, but more so of the art style, since there's only so much map detail you can convey in a 64 by 64 pixel area. Regardless, if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, then Ascent DX is a game worth checking out, and is one that should help to pass the time while you're waiting for Silksong. So this game is like if you gave Madeline in Celeste actual mountain climbing gear. Summit Steps of Solace is a mountain climbing game developed by Pixelated Opus, where you take control of a mountain climber scaling up, well, a mountain. Now, to get the comparison out of the way, this game feels very similar to Celeste, just without the ability to dash. But even though Summit lacks Madeline's ability to be bound by the laws of physics, Summit does give the player a grappling hook, which can be used after jumping to grab hold of a wall and propel yourself towards it. But aside from just the purely mechanical side of this game, Summit is a fairly fun game. I mean, sure, the controls take a while to get used to, and the game's sprite size and overall design make certain jumps feel like you have to be pixel perfect in order to perform them properly, but Summit is still a challenging game that I enjoy despite its flaws. However, it's worth bringing up that as of writing this video, Summit only has a demo available, with the full release being June 19th later this year. But despite this, there's still a sizable amount of content in just the demo alone. So if you enjoy games like Celeste and are ready to climb your next mountain, then it might be worth giving Summit a try. Ride your hoverboard around a desolate open world in Star Overdrive. Developed by Caracal Games, Star Overdrive is an open world game that I can best describe as Breath of the Wild meets Wavetale, which, to summarize, means that this game pulls clear inspiration from Breath of the Wild when it comes to things like towers and dungeons, but pulls the fun mobility aspect from Wavetale. In Star Overdrive, your main tool to get around is a hoverboard, which allows you to traverse the map at soaring speeds if you're able to perform tricks consistently, which, if you've played Wavetale before, will feel very similar to how mobility was handled in that game. But the mobility of Star Overdrive isn't always perfect, as while you're off the hoverboard, your movement becomes very static, which is great for when you have to traverse dungeons, since dungeons are designed around puzzles and careful platforming, but this causes your base movement to feel very meh when going anywhere without using your hoverboard. And unfortunately, this meh static movement also affects the combat as well, as even though you have a light and heavy attack, due to the way the game's movement is designed, the combat ends up feeling as static as your base movement. Fortunately, Star Overdrive doesn't really put a heavy emphasis on combat, instead focusing more on movement and careful platforming when traversing dungeons. So I think it's fine that the combat feels kinda meh, but it's just one of those things where I wish the combat was a bit more fleshed out and fluid, so it felt as smooth as when you're on a hoverboard. But aside from the movement of this game being great in some areas and underwhelming in others, the actual gameplay itself is rather fun, as the main gameplay, at least from what I could tell from the demo, consists of you activating different data terminals in order to get closer to finding your friend. So for those of you that have played Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, the gameplay of Star Overdrive will feel very similar. But if you're a fan of open world games with a big emphasis on fluid movement, then give Star Overdrive a try. It's out now for $35, but has a demo available, so you're able to try out the game before spending money on it. Music is illegal and you're a wanted criminal in this narrative-driven rhythm game. Created by developer D-Cell Games, Unbeatable is a beautiful and stylistic rhythm game where you play as Beat, a girl that's on the run alongside her fellow bandmates, Clef, Treble, and Quaver. On your adventure, you'll learn more about not only the world of Unbeatable, but more about each character as well, and even about the shadowy organization that controls music. And honestly, while I would absolutely love to get into this game's story, Unbeatable is one of those games you just have to play for yourself in order to enjoy. But besides the story, Unbeatable is a beautiful game, and boasts locations that I honestly couldn't help but just stand around and get lost in, at least for a little while. And what makes this even better is that Unbeatable is an open world game, meaning that there are tons of beautiful locations to sightsee in this game. Now, while the story, settings, and art style of this game are all stunning, Unbeatable is still a rhythm game. So how does that hold up in comparison to the rest of the game? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The way Unbeatable handles the rhythm game segment of the game is by simplifying down the usual 4-button format that most rhythm games go with into just 2 buttons. And while the game does have different types of notes you have to hit, the game still only requires 2 button presses. So when the game throws certain obstacles your way, or flips which direction the notes are coming from, your input as a player remains the same. I know it sounds like I'm saying this is a bad thing, but honestly, as someone who struggles with keeping up with rhythm games sometimes, having a 2-button style is honestly pretty helpful and allows beginners to the genre to enjoy the game even if they're bad at rhythm games. However, this simplicity comes at a cost. Well, for me it does at least. I'm not sure if anyone else has the same issue with their hands, but I find that whenever I have to use the same fingers or do the same movements over and over again in quick succession, my hands tend to fatigue fairly quickly, which while for normal everyday stuff is annoying, ends up being pretty detrimental while playing Unbeatable. Since the game only uses 2 buttons for its inputs, it becomes really easy for my hands to fatigue and feel tired, which would be fine if the songs are like a minute or 2 long, but most of Unbeatable songs range anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, which caused me to switch which hand I was using mid-song. Now, stuff like this can be easily fixed by either using a controller or mapping multiple keys to the same input. I just chose to not go that route since I wanted to experience how the game would feel traditionally on mouse and keyboard. So I guess this issue isn't really a product of a game, and more so of my own stubbornness. Regardless, Unbeatable is an all-around 9 out of 10 game that I had a wonderful time playing. And while my PC couldn't handle this game in certain areas and my hands fatigued a lot while playing through songs, Unbeatable is still a fantastic game that gets my 100% recommendation even if you don't traditionally enjoy rhythm games. And there you have it, another batch of indie games for you to enjoy. As always, I'll leave a link in the description to each of these games in case you want to check them out for yourself. But feel free to suggest any games I should check out next in the comments as well. I've been experimenting with shorts lately, covering games that I wouldn't normally cover in an indie game video, so if you have any games you want me to check out, then let me know in the comments, and who knows, it might end up being included in a short or something. So feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!